Okay, so you're looking into a Crimson Trace for your pistol or revolver. So what's it all about? Um, these Crimson Traces, what they do is there will be a button that as soon as you grip the gun, a laser will shine out. Okay. A lot of you like to keep it at stock, and the stock for a specific gun is 50 yards. If you're getting it for a revolver, it depends on the frame if it's going to be stock set or not. For instance, they have N frames that are round butt, square butt. They have KL frames for the different Smith & Wessons. You're not going to get these gun specific, and what that means is one Crimson Trace may fit two types of guns. So you're going to have to adjust the windage and the elevation right here to set it up with your sights. For a Crimson Trace, I like to set it up for the length of my hallway from one side of the house to the end of the house. I like it close quarters like that because that way if somebody's breaking in and it's dark at night, I can rely on the laser instead of the sights. When it gets to be more long distance, like the 50 yards, you'll see that the laser jiggles a lot the more yardage you go out, and that's just a natural thing for your hand. For a longer shot, I like to depend on the sights. Also, if you're going to the range and you want to compete with your buddies at your best shot, if you get the more expensive Crimson Traces, they'll come with an on and off switch. On the bottom of the revolvers, the on and off switch will be down here. This way you can grip it and the laser does not come on, and you can shoot it at the range and compete with your buddies without cheating. Also, if you go to competition, you're going to need the laser to be off. In broad daylight, the laser does not show up very well, but in a well-lit store, it'll show up well. In a well-lit room, it'll show up well as long as there's not a lot of sunlight. I like to depend on the Crimson Trace if it's pitch black and my house is being broken into. For a longer shot, I like to depend on the sights. I like to depend on the sights first and foremost for most of my shots, but if I just want to see where I'm going throughout the house and what it's shining on, this is a great tool for that. You're going to get the cheap Crimson Traces, which are they're a very hard plastic and they don't have an on and off switch. You're going to want to watch out for those. The nice ones always have an on and off switch, and they're a little bit rubbery, which means they can bend a little bit. Right now my guns are not with me, but over my buddy's house because I'm staying at a different place right now. So I have these for over 6 of my guns, the Crimson Traces, and I have them all sighted in for very close range, just in case I need to use it at my house or whatever. Anything longer than, let's say, 15 yards, and I'm using the sights. You can set it in for longer if you want to rely on it. If you get yourself an accurate shot for a longer sight than that, you can set the Crimson Trace for up to 50 yards being accurate. I'm going to get one for this guy here, too, the Airlight PD, the 329 PD Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum. I already have it for a governor. I put them on all of my pistols. The laser doesn't get knocked out of place with recoil. It stays where it's at. When you adjust it, you just adjust it to the sights with a nice bore sighter, a nice accurate bore sighter, and the bore sighter will shine, and you just line the laser with the bore sighter, and you're good to go. They're great for, like, a lot of people who like to shoot at the hip with revolvers. A little laser will tell you where it's going. The other thing, too, is it only really gets activated when you squeeze it just hard enough. So if you want to walk around the house and you don't want the intruder to know you have a laser on them until the last moment, you just give it a little squeeze, and it's good to go. Also, when I keep putting my finger in the way here, that won't be in the way when it's wrapped around the trigger. So you don't got to worry about that. They get expensive. If you're going to buy it in the store, it's going to be around $300. Online, a nice one is going to be around $200 to $250. But I love the things. They're not the best looking ones on revolvers, and they don't have wood finish ones on revolvers. They're all black, but tactically it's a must-have in my opinion. You can't see the sights in pitch black unless you have those high-vis ones, and even those in pitch black, they need to have some light on them in order to shine. So if you're going through the house and you don't want to turn your lights on, that would be a good way to go. The Crimson Traces, they're just I rely on them completely. They're so helpful just in every situation, just especially in the dark. They're, like I said, they're not worth anything in broad daylight, but that's where your sights come in handy, and you always want to know how to use your sights if you have a gun, and you don't want to depend on a laser. Depending on a laser is going to get you roughed up in a lot of situations, maybe even killed if they know you're trying to kill them in self-defense. Obviously, with a gun, that's only going to anger them, have them rush you when they see that you don't know what you're doing. The Crimson Traces that are made specifically for guns, like the M&P standard, they fit just perfectly, and the grip is just a perfect size grip for any hand, really. And this little thing comes in handy quite often. Crimson Trace will also send you batteries if they ever run out. You have 4 hours of life on these batteries, and they'll get dim on you before they run out. I like to buy just a bunch of Energizer batteries on eBay, real cheap, like $6 for 8 of them, and they take 2 of them. And they're a pretty much must-have for any pistol. A lot of you guys are really good with the sights. You've been shooting your whole lives. I'll tell you, you don't need them, but they will come in handy in like those pitch black close quarters kind of situations. Sometimes all the intruder needs to see is that you have a shot on them, and that'll scare them away. The Crimson Trace is just it's a perfect little advantage for those situations where you just need to get a quick aim on the guy and you can't be fiddling with your sights. And they align right with your barrel. Just, you see that inch away it is from the actual barrel. That gets real dead on, and even if you're off by an inch, whether it's real close up like that or far away and you have it tuned in to sight in at 50 yards. But it's a great advantage. I'd recommend Crimson Trace. I actually bought a PPKS instead of a PPK specifically because that frame would get a Crimson Trace on it. Even though I have to pay $100 per magazine for a PPKS magazine, I still got the Crimson Trace, and that Crimson Trace on that gun is so well installed that and it fits so perfectly that anybody who shoots that gun and it's their first time shooting, they usually outshoot me because I usually only shoot without the laser. I like to practice without the laser at the range. But like, yeah, I had a girl fire it once, and she outshot me with the Crimson Trace. They definitely work. If the recoil sets your shot off a little bit, then adjust it to the recoil. It's perfect. Big problem though, you want to make sure you don't strip the screws in here. You want to make sure when you align it that the screws aren't out too much. And the recoil really doesn't affect the screws at all. But it's a very, very thin, it's like 0.5 millimeter Allen key that you got to turn in there, and it's real easy to strip them, and you don't want to do that. So that being said, I'd recommend the Crimson Traces. I'm getting one for this guy, and take it easy.